Hello, it's me. It's the Men's Couch Crew. Yeah. What's up, everybody? My name is Alex Henn, and welcome back to The Men's Couch, a show about men's mental health. I'm Alex Henn, and I'm here joined by
Nicholas,
Ben,
and Micah.
and we're back with another episode. Sorry we missed yesterday. We decided to take a little break, but we're back, ready, better than ever. We're like Rocky, you know what I'm saying? Like we might like take a break, but we're back. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, before we start, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
I'll be back.
And also, don't forget to follow us on Spotify and also on Instagram at Men's Couch. So, Micah's doing something. So, let's just start this off. Yeah.
sounds good.
All right. Cool. So, I believe Micah's topic for
Mistakes.
the day,
Oh,
mistakes.
it's coming back.
Sorry, I just put my go out.
No problem. So, we're talking about mistakes, Micah. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. I'll let you take that away first. So, what do you think?
Hello. Yeah. So today, we decided to talk about mistakes, and my it's a more vulnerable topic. You know, we usually talk about how do you heal from when someone has hurt you or wronged you, but it's different when you've wronged someone else. How do you recover from what you've done, and how do you learn to let go of any like regrets that you have, or just anything that has happened in the past? It's difficult, but I think it's a important thing to discuss.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. I would say as well that, like, first of all, like, in terms of mistakes, like, what mistake did you make is probably, like, the first thing that you need to, like, see what you did wrong.
Yeah.
But also as well that, I would also see, like, how can you improve for next time as well?
That's a good point, man. Yeah. I think that is the best possible way to see a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
When you make a mistake, it's like, oh shoot, I did this. However, I can learn from this.
Mm.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah, and I think for me, you know, most of this topic was inspired by the mistake that happened a week ago. It was when I lashed out at my friend, and out of my anger, you know, I was so frustrated with the situation and overwhelmed that I took it out on him, and he didn't deserve to hear the things I said to him. And that was like one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life, and I just had a lot of regret. I went through like the regret stage, the grieving over like what I've done and how I've hurt and wronged that person, and how I need to take accountability for what I did. And it's difficult to face your mistakes and face what you've done, because in any relationship, whether it be family, friends, or romance, there's always two people that make mistakes, and it's not just the other person. It's like, how did I contribute to this? And it takes a lot of humility to get there. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would say as well with mistakes, as well, like kind of how you were saying with your situation too, Micah, is like, I know I talked about this a little earlier, but like, how can I learn from that? Where can I improve in terms of, okay, I did so and so wrong, where can I improve?
Yeah, that's it's difficult because we're always looking at like what other people do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this person did this to me, and they've hurt me this way, and those feelings are valid. But at the end of the day, you always have to focus on your own what you've done, and it's hard. It's difficult to let go of your ego and your pride. That's been like a whole thing this week. It's like I've had so much like ego and pride in that situation, and when I was lashing out, I didn't know what I was doing, and it's just I felt like so terrible after like a couple of days. I like realized like, wait a second, like what did I actually do? What actually happened? And so like once you like analyze it and once you like reflect on it, you're like, what? Wait a second, like what happened and what did I do? And sometimes like I told like I've been telling people like I can't believe like I've done that. I've never thought like that would happen, but um but at the end of the day, yes, not all hope is lost. It's just how do you go through the process of what you did? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that learning from it is probably an important part of healing from it.
Yeah.
And, like knowing that you won't make that mistake again, or that you recognize it. I mean, the only way to grow is probably to, be humble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. But
Yeah. Yeah.
That's actually that's a great way of saying that.
Yeah.
Just like I said before, taking that mistake and using it as a positive instead of a negative. If you keep beating yourself up about it
Mm.
with a mistake, it's not going to get better.
Yeah.
You know, my my kind of philosophy in life has been kind of trying to make something negative into a positive,
Mhm.
and I think that goes into that matter
yeah,
quite well.
Yeah.
even with failure, I think it's a matter of perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It always is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's hard to have that perspective, but I think it's
Yeah.
necessary,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like it's hard not to have an ego and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Exactly.
And when I was in the whole midst of it, after I lashed out at the person, I was like so angry and I said all those things. I was like I really had to sit with like, okay, what did I actually do? Not just what happened. It was just like, how did I hurt the person? And I hurt that person's heart when they were struggling, and I was like, yeah, my feelings are valid, but that doesn't like mean just lash out at your friend. It means take a second and to really think about what you want to say and communicate, and just allow space and time to really allow your emotions to settle. For me, I realized that a huge thing was that I acted like impulsively based on my anger at the time. I felt like justified and like self-righteous, like I'm gonna tell this person everything that I need to tell them, and they're gonna hear my like anger and pain, but that's not like acting on that impulse is not a healthy way to communicate or deal with your feelings. And I think that's the thing as men is especially when it comes to anger is I feel like, and I attest to this is like based on my experience, is that like when it comes to anger, like we act on that impulse because we're just like not necessarily like thinking, we're just like, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I feel justified in telling this person what I feel like they need to hear.
it's just there,
Yeah, and we don't think about like how that person is going to hurt by it. We think, okay, I just feel so justified and I need to get it out, and we don't realize like the damage that it does until I didn't realize it until like a couple of days later that I felt like I had like a rock bottom experience, because when I realized like all of like the hurt I've caused that person, it wasn't just like that situation. It was just like all throughout the course of knowing them. It's like this wasn't just this one time. I've hurt this person many times, and I think it was like time. I always say it was time for God to humble me, because I was so based on my pride and ego and what I thought that the person needed to hear, that I wasn't open to listening to that person and really
truly
seeing them,
listening
yeah.
to them. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my story. I think Alex, you'd know more about what happened, but it's just kind of like my thing of like how do I, and like now, right now, I'm in the process of learning to let go of what I did
Mhm.
and learn to forgive myself, because it's like it's one thing to forgive other people, but like how do you forgive yourself for
That's a good one.
Yeah.
regrets?
Exactly.
And
Uh,
how do you make space for that?
Well, if
Yeah.
we maybe sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
no, you got it.
Yeah.
Well, if we could jump back real quick, you said that the first thing you did was give a little space for emotions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all probably know that, like, the first impulse after you do something wrong is probably to put a Band-Aid on it to try and
Yeah.
make up for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good step, and that's really important when you make a mistake, is to leave the space and then think about how you can make it right instead of
Yeah.
just
Mm.
trying to fix it quickly,
Yeah, because
or justify why you think you're right and you did nothing wrong.
Mhm.
So-
yeah, because trying to fix something quickly, it doesn't really get to, you don't make time to get to the root of the problem, of why you did what you did, and what can be improved. And I think out of our own shame and guilt, we feel like our like Band-Aid thing is just like, okay, I'm sorry, I don't know,
Mm.
please forgive me and stuff. But that process takes time, and we have to give the other person time to come back to you and to forgive you. We like things won't look how they were after, like, I mean, before the hurts. So whenever you've hurt someone, it's just like you can't expect things to just suddenly go back to normal, or a normal, quote unquote normal, because my spiritual guide, she's a very important person in my life, and she said, things won't go back to normal, but they'll be better than before. And I couldn't
Mhm.
really see it that way, but it's something that I like to explore. So,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, things always get better eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like what she meant by that is that throughout like the whole mess of the situation, and no matter what happened, there's still could be something beautiful that can come out of it. And when you're like stuck in that shame, because I was in like shame for like a long time, for I don't know, maybe for a week, and I still wrestle with it, but it was just like it was just so many thoughts, like, I can't believe I did this. Who am I to say these things? And I can't believe I've caused hurt to someone that I love. Like, I can't believe that I did that. And I was stuck in that place for a long time, but I realized that I had to give myself grace and see the humanity in me, that I'm going to make mistakes, and that's not going to define who I am. It's just part of the learning process, and I just need to make space for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, every time, like, everyone, I think, has that one mistake that they have, that every time they think about, at least for a second, they go, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a natural response to have, but it's just accepting it is what
Yeah.
shows your true power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it starts with acceptance, and
Mhm.
accept that, okay, this is what I did, and really looking at really like sitting with what you did, because I feel like for me, I had to like after like I lashed out, like I went to a park, and I sat there and really like reflected, and really just sat like with what I did and all the things I said. And I was trying to like imagine what it would be like to be that person, like my friend that got hurt.
Mhm.
And I was in the park. I think it was for some time, and I just started crying. Like, I just started crying. I was like, whoa! Like, I reflected, and I said I did all these things, and I didn't mean to hurt that person, but I think that was like a moment for me to hold space for that person's, how they felt, and it was for me to hold space for them, and to hold space for pain. I didn't want to feel that, but I feel like I needed to really understand, like, to really grasp the situation, because even if I didn't mean to, I think it's still important enough to really grasp what I did and to really feel it. Because it's one thing to like, no, okay, I did this. I hurt this person, but like, what does that feel like? And I think that moment was like, I don't even call it my rock bottom experience. It was just like maybe like an awakening or opening up to understanding myself on a deeper level. And it was just, something I can't explain, but yeah, I was in the car and I was like, I just started crying, and I don't know if anyone saw me because I was in the park, so I don't know if anyone saw me walking the dog. Like, oh, who's this guy crying in his car? But that was an experience, and if anyone else wants to share their, if they feel comfortable sharing their like things that they've reflected on, or feel free.
Well, I was going to ask you, Micah, since then, have you started to maybe reframe how you look at yourself?
Yes.
Because when you kind of hit that moment, you're like, shit, I don't know myself,
Yeah.
That's really what you feel,
I started. I started kind of like looking at myself in a different way, not just like, because I feel like we go to extremes. We're either like all good or all bad, but I'm more in the middle where I'm like a messy human. I'm trying to figure out life, and that's gonna evolve. Just unfortunately, as like I believe that as a fallen creature, as a fallen person, I'm gonna hurt people and cause them pain. Not like meaning to. I'm not like. It doesn't mean I'm like Hitler, where I'm like a sociopath, or I'm like causing people pain. I like intentionally, but out of my own brokenness. What did you give him the side?
What's up?
You gave him the side eye, but out of my own.
Quite an extreme example.
Yeah, that's extreme, Micah.
Very extreme example.
I was not expecting that.
Out of my own brokenness, I'm not going to be Hitler, but out of my own brokenness, I'm going to cause people pain, but I'm also going to help people to heal. So it's not just it's not just like a black and white thing where I'm causing people pain or I'm causing people to heal. It's more of like a mixture, because I'm flawed, and that's just part of this. It's part of me, and I think I'm learning to more accept that, especially after our failure episode. I'm really accepting that is just part of my humanity, and I like when it does happen, I need to allow it to be used as a gift instead of like something against me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on acceptance, I think everyone is going to hurt people, like you said.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to try, or at least I would hope they would try and heal people.
Yeah.
And I think that's just part of living,
Mm-hmm.
And if you can kind of accept that that's just how it is, then it's easier to heal and move on, knowing that, that's just life. It's life taking its course.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and in the moment, it feels like rock bottom, but
It
you
definitely did.
Yeah. I know, like, in my spiritual practice, it's like you kind of come outside of the situation and you look down on it, you view it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it the 5 stages of grief, but it's something like that. In a
Yeah.
way.
Maybe similar.
Yeah, in
It's
a
the
way.
natural steps
It is, yeah.
of it.
And I don't know. It's like, it's hard because this is like the person that I hurt last week is someone that I deeply value and really care about. So I think just out of my own broken way of caring for that person, I ended up hurting them when really they just needed someone to listen and not someone to like really say all those crazy things. And the saying goes, we don't know what we do, and it's like true.
Yeah.
We don't know like truly what we do when we're doing it. At least like I think the people in this room were not like going around intentionally like looking to hurt
Alex.
people. Maybe Alex. Maybe he wakes up one day like planning to hurt me. We'll see.
Perhaps. No,
But it's just by our fallen nature, we mess up. We have areas of our life that I have areas of my life that like is not mature, or not really that is like emotionally immature, but but I'm still growing in that, and it doesn't make me like a crazy sociopath, or it doesn't make me that,
Yeah.
but it makes me
Human.
Makes
Makes you human.
Makes
it
you
makes me
human.
human, and I think that's an important part. It makes me human, and it makes me, just more things are more complex than just you're just a bad person
Mm.
or you're a good person. Like you're not just always a good person. That sounded
Yeah.
weird, but
But it makes sense.
yeah.
I was gonna say too, like I have like a story. I'm not gonna share it, but I'm
Okay.
just gonna tell you what I learned from it.
Mm.
Like there's many different things that I learned. I know like taking another perspective. I know you were talking about that, Micah, too.
Mm-hmm.
Once I saw that different perspective, it kind of changed like my overall like view of the situation,
Yeah.
and made me think what I did was much worse than I ever expected it would be. And so like as well, like it helped me improve as a person as well, because as well,
Shadow Roland.
it showed me what I was doing wrong in that situation and helped me learn.
Yeah. And I think that's like something that I had to accept. It's like this is a learning experience, and even if I had the right intentions, I still ended up hurting the person that is very, very dear to me, and it's just not it's something that I needed to, because we're as humans, we all have areas that we need to grow in, and that was one of them. It's just I needed to. I think in some cases like it had to get to that point where it was just like, oh, I feel like I hit rock bottom. I feel like I hurt this person, and it's like did irreversible damage, because I think for me it needed to get to that point for me to see, okay, well, this is an actual problem, and this is something that I need to work on, because I think if I didn't have that experience, then I would just continue kind of continue based on my ego, my pride, and not really be humbled, because I didn't I cried a lot last week. It wasn't just like in the park. It was I think it was like Thursday night when I went home, and I was like I was talking to the person that I hurt, and and I guess I just started just full on crying, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I guess because it came up, and like all like the reality of what I did, because it's one thing to do something, but it's also one thing to like experience the full effect of what you did. And I was like, geez, like wow, I didn't it's just that moment of sorrow that led me to change and to repent, because I think if I didn't have that, then I would just be going I would just not really think about my actions.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Something else I'm thinking of right now is like when you make a mistake, you feel very guilty.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah.
The guilt.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what type of mistake
Yeah.
it is. Like you probably feel that guilt either way.
Oh
There's-
my gosh. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
There was like a certain mistake I made. I'm not going to say it again. But like I felt so unbelievably guilty.
Yeah, that's what I felt this week, and it's funny that I think it was like the night. I think it was the night that I cried. It was like the next morning you sent me that text about failure, or like the message
was-
about
Okay.
failure, and I didn't tell him what I did. He just sent it. Like, how did that?
Okay, Nick.
I
Nice,
I don't
Nick.
know if you have,
was looking at something real quick.
I'm sending
it when
So,
it was Thursday night.
yeah. Was it Thursday night?
It was Thursday.
Oh my gosh, it was like that night. I think I was like crying, and then you sent the failure thing, and it's something that like I needed to hear, but I didn't know that. I didn't know, and you didn't know.
I didn't have. I had
So
no
you
idea.
didn't- You had no idea what was going on, and I think that was amazing. And just I guess like if I pull it up, you guys you can
Yeah,
let me pull.
I have my phone on charge. But so basically, while Mike is pulling it up, basically we were doing some at CCO, and it reminded me of the failure podcast we made last week, I think it was. So it was. It gets cut off. So I'm just gonna.
Okay, go ahead.
How may it make you feel to acknowledge your failure and sin? How do you normally handle it when you feel guilty or recognize that you failed?
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one.
That, like, I guess, like, this week, I was just, like, in, like, what I call the shame spiral. I was in, like, a shame spiral for a while. It was hard for me to face that person. It was hard for me to, like, see that person again. After everything, like, our last encounter, like, I hugged him before Easter break. I haven't seen him since, but I hugged him before I left for Easter break. And I said, I hope you have, like, a blessed break and everything. But it was really hard, and it took, like, a lot for me to really do it because I felt so much in shame about what I did that I feel like I can't be in the same room as this person. They're going to think I'm, like, a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
And even, like, going to church with Ken this weekend, it was, like, how am I, like, in the same room as believers knowing of what I did? It's, like, but at the same time, it's important to know that everyone has done something. Everyone does things that make them feel like they don't deserve to be, like, in the same room with people. And because we're all fallen, and we all do messed up things. I realized that this week is like I do. It's important for me to realize that I do really messed up things to people, and I don't like to look at it. I don't like to look at this part of myself, but maybe I need to learn to embrace it more and to understand it more instead of just trying to. Because I feel like the more we run from it, the more that we're gonna feel shame about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do mess up, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like we kind of make it more. We kind of expand it more, make it more of a thing and let it define us. So I think if we embrace it more and embrace that part of ourselves, and acknowledge that, like you said, like acknowledge thing, acknowledge that guilt, and that acknowledge that this is a part of me that I need to improve on. This is something that I struggle with. But it takes a lot of humility, number one, and it's also like give yourself permission to admit that you have that struggle. Because I feel like if you don't, then you're gonna beat yourself up more if you don't accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's like half the battle is knowing you have that issue.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And once you recognize that, you can take the steps to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Certainly not easy.
It's not easy.
The entire process is not easy.
Yeah.
But starting it, that's still an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So I have a story.
Okay.
Marshmallows.
So a few months ago, I got hurt pretty badly by someone,
Yeah.
and I hit a pretty low point in my life, and I ended up hurting someone else because of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit of a different scenario.
I was actually, I don't want to cut you off, but it's a little bit similar.
Okay.
Because it was also like I was also like not intentionally hurting the person, but I was also like out of my own pain.
Yeah.
Like that I've been hurt, that kind of turned into anger, and then that made me like lash out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, but yeah, that's very much so what it was. Yeah. And so it was, like you said, it was not at all intentional, but it's kind of the inner chaos that causes it to
Unleash
happen.
inner chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I thought that it would be a little bit of a contrast from your story. I didn't know that.
Oh no.
Yeah.
But.
So I just felt I was very guilty after I hurt someone, and I think just like you said, it was very similar, kind of in this place where you just don't really recognize yourself or
Yeah, I
um,
couldn't look at myself in the mirror for a
yeah,
while.
how you could possibly like do that to someone. And it wasn't someone that I was very close with, which is different to your story. But even
Mhm.
then, it was kind of just not it was not in my character to do something like that. And
Yeah.
and it made me really go out or go like into my mind and think,
Mhm.
about who I am and the decisions I want to make and the person I want to be going forward.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that it's easy to take your suffering and maybe project it onto the world around you, and that's why people
Yeah.
get bitter. And that's really what I was struggling with there, I think,
Yeah.
is I noticed that over probably the month after I was hurt that I became very bitter, not
Mhm.
just towards like that
Mhm.
person, but to the world
Yeah.
as a whole.
Yeah.
And that took a lot of acceptance and kind of that process, I guess, almost the grief process to change that.
Yeah.
But and I notice a lot of people stay bitter, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's
So-
like
Oh yeah.
it's like it's like a sense of resentment, either resentment against the person, resentment against yourself, or resentment like against the whole world. And it's like that kind of continues the cycle of pain. You've been hurt, so once it turns into bitterness or resentment, then you unleash that that inner chaos
Yeah.
on someone else, and then that person gets bitter and resent and has resentment,
Yeah.
and
It's
then
just
they like it's
yeah.
like a continuing cycle.
It's a vicious
Mhm.
cycle,
So I feel like we have to be the ones that we have to look at ourselves with compassion, not with shame, and don't beat yourself up, but we have to look at ourselves and really see what happened and see what we need to change, so we're not like continuing that cycle of pain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that fits because I hurt someone in the way that I was hurt. So
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was like, I don't want to continue this cycle or make someone else feel this way.
Yeah.
And you gotta have that strength, I think, to break the cycle and be that person.
Yeah, you have
So-
to, because that also like once you break that cycle, then that it there's leaves room for healing, not only for yourself but for the person that you've hurt, and you bring that healing energy to the world because the world needs it. The world needs healing energy. The world doesn't need for you to just check out and to resent yourself or live a life of shame, because it's easy to be in that place where you're just going, like you said, going in your head and just like, what did I do, and that sense of regret and remorse. But it's important, and it's so hard to not stay there. And I think like for me what I learned is to not isolate myself, because I think when I was like
Yeah.
I relate.
I agree with you, Micah,
Relate.
too.
when I was in the midst of that struggle, it hit like it kind of hit hard on Sunday night. I think what was the Sunday night? Yeah, it was Sunday night, and I like went into like another shame spiral, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I did this. I don't deserve this person's friendship or blah blah blah. But then my friend Ken invited me to go study with him, and I was just like, I'm gonna do this. I have to stop like being in my head, and I have to be with people, because it was sort of hard to be with, like, surrounded by people, because it's like, oh wait, hold on, I've hurt somebody, and you're just like, then you're kind of like afraid of hurting other people. You kind of feel like untouchable for a little bit. Like I don't know if you felt that,
Yes.
but like I felt like
definitely.
untouchable based on my shame. But I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna hang out with Ken, and I'm gonna study with him. That's and I felt better after that. I felt better because I knew that I wasn't alone in my own humanity, and I don't have to be. Even though he doesn't, Ken will know now. But even though he didn't know like what I was going through, it was good to just not isolate myself, because as an introvert, when you're like that tendency to get stuck in your head, when you're just going through your head, that's like kind of all you hear. That's all you hear, and if that's all you're hearing, you're not getting any like outside input or outside connection, because we need connection to heal. If we've hurt somebody in a connection, then we do need to heal in a sense of like, in solitude when you're thinking about it and you're healing in solitude. But we also need people in community to heal. When we don't think like that when we've hurt someone. We think that way whenever someone has hurt us, that we, how do I not put my walls up? But I feel like the same thing goes when you've hurt someone, like, because you feel like you need to put your walls up, at least for me, because like I've hurt people and I don't want to like hurt other people, Yeah.
For me, it was kind of like I went into analysis mode on myself. I was like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
And I put my walls up, and yeah, I did. I was like isolating, not really because I wanted to, but it's just kind of what I thought I had to do at the time.
Yeah.
And that actually did make it worse. That made it harder for me to really see the good things about myself in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And recognize that like this doesn't define who I am.
Yeah.
And then it felt like it was a spiral. It was like encompassing all of my thoughts, and
Yeah.
So that's I think how it is. But
Oh yeah. I was gonna say too, like whenever I did get hurt by a specific situation, there was someone there for me. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but like they were there for me, and like they helped me calm down a lot.
And I think like for me, it's important that you have other people to remind you of who you are, to remind you that you're not like a bad person. So it's so important. What is going on? It's so important that you have people around you as reminders that you're not a bad person. You're not just that situation, that mistake doesn't define you. It doesn't make you like doesn't make you crazy. It just makes you like, you need to be surrounded by people and their own humanity. And like, it's important like when we share stories. That's why I like to share stories about my life, because I felt that it resonates a lot with people, and it's like that unspoken sense of connection. Like, okay, yeah, this is like a different situation, but just like similar themes that like I relate to, because we've all can relate to messing up and screwing something up and making a mistake and regretting it. And when it comes to hurting people, it's hard to talk about that, because it's hard to talk about when you've hurt someone while you're talking to someone else, because you're just like, you don't want people to see you as like like bad.
Yeah.
But that vulnerability is a key in healing, because if you're not like, I feel like if you don't do that, that's kind of like a burden that's kind of weighing on you, and you're gonna spiral in that, and you're gonna carry that, and it just leads to other problems like down the line. So
yeah, we're social creatures,
Yeah.
even if we're
Yeah.
hurting. So, and I guess a thing I was thinking about while you said that is that if you obviously don't heal and you become bitter, you probably won't. Those people probably won't be around for long.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. I think it's really important to remember that you should always be striving for something better, even when you're hurt.
Yeah.
I think that might be an important message, because, it's good to have community, but if you're always bitter, people won't want to be around you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just an important step.
Yeah. It's also important to not give up on yourself, or to not give up, because it's easy to because for me, that was like last week, that was a setback, because I've been wanting to really just I guess like, I don't know what the right word is, but really to work on who I am and want to be a better person. But that was a setback, and that was kind of like my relapse into my issues with like communication and managing anger. So that was sort of like a relapse for me. But it was important for me to not give up and to not let that situation tell the whole story, or let that situation dictate the whole future of my life. Because that happened last week, and the situation happened at one point in time. It's not going to continue happening of all time. It's just that was at one point in time, and I'm not obligated to be the same person I was a week ago. So we're not like held to the people that we were, whether it be a week ago, yesterday, last month. We don't have to stay that way, and it's important to not give up on who you really want to become. So, yeah.
Yeah, and something that is actually pointed itself out to me now is when you said that you were in that shame cycle.
Yeah. Yes.
There's many studies done on it, but what you think about, your brain will wire itself around.
Yeah.
And you'll begin to become that, and I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
When you think constantly that you're never gonna escape this pain, or what you did is so terrible, you can't ever see the other side of it.
Yeah.
But if you do think about something different, you'll slowly and surely heal from it.
Yeah, and you'll become the person that you want to be. And I think that's an important point that you brought up, because if you're like you said, if you're constantly thinking about the thing that you did and how screwed up that was, how you hurt the person, and how if you said what I did was just so terrible, and if you keep saying that, then it leaves no room for change.
Yeah.
Because it is important to acknowledge the weight of what you've done.
Mhm.
But if you keep thinking about that, then you're gonna like kind of become that in sort of a way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna like
Honestly.
gonna repeat that. So, have you done any terrible things that you like to share?
Tell us all your
Let's
secrets.
see.
Do you have a?
What's up?
Let's see. Do you
He
have
has a list.
Uh-oh.
Oh, let's see. Did I hear that dead body last week? No, I'm kidding. I mean, there's not really a lot I can, like, recently think of right now. I mean, there's probably some examples I can think of, but I can relate to what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
I think everybody
Mhm.
has been in situations where they feel like that,
Mm-hmm.
where, like, guilt,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like, where they done something wrong with a friend, or someone did something to them, and then they lash out on somebody else.
Yeah.
And I've done that, of course. So for me, how to, like right now, what I'm trying to figure out is trying to come up with ways to cope with that.
Cope with what?
Cope with doing those things,
Doing what?
like lashing out at a friend,
Mhm.
feeling like you made a mistake.
So, do you mean like cope with the after effects of what you've done? Like,
Yeah, cope with
so
it.
say like you lash out at me,
Yeah.
and like how to cope with what you've done.
Mm-hmm. Like, how do you do that?
Okay.
Mm.
Well, I'll always forgive you. I'm just
I
kidding.
know.
But I guess like coping with that. That's a good question.
How do you cope with that? Like, what do you think?
I feel like, everybody has their coping mechanisms,
Right, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have coping mechanisms I'm not even aware of for the most
Yeah.
part, but like I think I would just fall back on those probably.
Yeah.
That might be a big thing. I know that when I tend to get more depressed, that I do things that I like to do when I was in high school. Like I
Yeah.
watched a lot of TV. I probably go to the gym a lot. Things like that will help me cope. Yeah.
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 But
I could relate to that gym one. Yeah.
now it's more focused on like things that are still productive that help me
Yeah.
cope. But
I feel like productivity helps.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
definitely
Yeah.
Like,
that sense of achievement.
When I feel like I did like a good chunk of homework or studied or did something I'm passionate about, like making movies, for
Yeah.
example, I feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the day wasn't wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can look at the sunset and be like, today was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a thought. It's that. So you say that you would rely on things you became passionate about, And then I've been thinking to myself, like, if I hurt someone and then I immediately went and just focused on my goals in my life completely, I would feel bad, I think.
Yeah.
I would feel really bad, just like
almost
throwing
as
it
if
away.
you're like forgetting it.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second.
Just pushing it out of my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's different if you're hurt by someone, maybe that's
Yeah.
the move.
Yeah.
But if you hurt someone, I don't think that it's best to just, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Because
that
how are you going to learn? Yeah.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
you need to go through that process where, you give some time, you learn and you reflect and you come back. And if that person is still someone that you care about, you make it right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the coping mechanisms are for probably the pain, the guilt you feel.
Yeah.
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 How do you go?
I was gonna say coping. Like, I like to take I think Micah, you said this. So like taking time away from the situation
Yeah.
and kind of thinking, okay, where did I go wrong here?
Yeah.
And I've said this multiple times. It's felt like, but like, that's how I cope a lot. Is like just taking time away, like seeing, like kind of like seeing like the other person's like perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important.
Because if I see that, then I'm like, okay, this is where I went wrong.
Lucas.
Hi,
Lucas!
Sorry, Lucas the
Yeah.
goat. showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah. And,
I
sorry,
was
go ahead.
saying about like, I'm gonna lose my thought. No, I'm good. Yeah, so I was talking about like how like I like to reflect on stuff. So like
Mm-hmm.
overall, I think it's just a great way to like see what you did wrong.
Yeah. Really reflect on that.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it does, is it lets you think about the other person's perspective. And that's how you know what you did wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, like how I cope with it, kind of like what I told you, is like I was like, I'm gonna hold space for this person, and even if they're not like physically with me, I'm gonna, like what I did. I went to the park and kind of like journaled a little bit, reflected on like what I did, and I just let myself feel the pain and feel the uncomfortable feeling of it, and I just let myself feel it. I just let myself just cry. Like I cried for a little while, and I just let myself just feel the pain of what I caused that person. But I think just taking space to, like you said, to feel the situation, not only think about it but feel it, and also talking to other people about it, which is also what I've been doing with you and Nathan. I was like talking to other people about it, about what you did, because like I feel like shame grows in silence, and when we don't talk to people about what we've done. I think what was it, on Friday or Saturday? I called you.
I can check.
I think it was like Friday or Saturday. Like I called you, and I was like, yeah, because like and I kind of like
called me on Friday.
yeah, and I kind of told you what happened, and telling people what happened. I know it's like it's scary to do that, and it's like if you're comfortable, obviously, but like telling people what happened and just really verbalizing what happened in the situation is so helpful and healing for me, because it lifts that burden off, and it I can process it with other people, and I can get their perspective. Nathan told me today, like, listen, it wasn't. He told me like it's not as crazy as your mind is making it out to be, and I think it's important to hear that, because I think in our own way, like if we have that like shame perspective, then we're just gonna like create this villain within ourselves. Like, I'm the villain. I've caused this to someone. But when you talk about it with someone else and you have like an objective perspective, then you can see it for like the whole scope of the situation, instead of just you hurting that person. It's like the whole scope of the situation, like what was going on, what was going on during that situation, because situations are more complex than you just hurt someone. And ask yourself, like, was I overwhelmed? Was I triggered by what because being triggered is another thing. Sorry, being triggered is another thing. It's like, was I triggered by what that person said? Was it triggered by what that person did? And that's why I felt, impulsive to lash out. Or was I carrying bitterness or resentment? Was I carrying that that seed within myself? And then that's what happened. Because situations are more nuanced, messy, and complex than, oh, I just hurt someone. Yeah. Just having, oh, God.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just agreeing with you.
What if, something happened in the past that hurt you, and then
Oh no.
let me break it down, all right?
What?
You know what I'm saying? Basically something in the past happened to you, and it kind of emotionally scarred you. And so if you see that kind of happening, you kind of lash out. Well,
Trauma.
Trauma.
Could that be a thing?
Explain that more. Elaborate.
Would
You mean so you have something traumatic happen to you and you have that wound, but are you witnessing it to someone? You're witnessing that happen to someone else.
no, you think it's gonna happen again with another person, entirely? So then you lash out.
Oh, it's
before-
a way to before you think it happens.
Yeah. This is such a specific. It's such a specific situation. It's kind of complicated, but it's kind of like PTSD maybe, or
Not I don't think it's necessarily PTSD, but I relate to what you're saying, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I lashed out last week.
it's your personal experience.
It's I thought okay, this person's going to reject me. This person's going to hurt me. So you have that protective sense of control. I need and I try to control the situation. So in my inner chaos and inner anxiety and inner sense of needing to control, I end up lashing out on someone else.
Yeah.
So it's that need for, I don't want the situation that happened in the past to happen again. So in my mind, I feel justified. I need to control everything, and I need to make sure that things go right. But we need to realize that life throws curveballs at us, and it's not gonna things don't happen, or relationships are not gonna happen in the way you think that they will, or of what happened in the past. So we have our default is to want to control the present situation. And I guess I don't know if that's I don't know. I should know because I'm a psychologist, but is that a trauma response? I guess you have that emotional reaction based on that past. But I think not a lot of people know that. I don't think people are aware of their scars enough to be okay, I've been hurt in the past, and this led to me acting this way. It's not this is not saying it is excusing it, but it's understanding it in a way of why this happened. I don't know if that answered your question,
That
or
makes a lot.
I mean, that was a pretty good response. I mean,
I don't know if that
Does what I asked make sense?
It
makes
does.
sense,
It does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something else too. I was gonna say rejection. You were going into Micah a little bit about rejection.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, rejection could make you act a certain way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
for me, I've been rejected a lot in my life.
Yeah, and if you have if you develop a sense of bitterness based on past rejection, or based on your past trauma, because I've been through the trenches, especially in middle school and high school, when things really started to really get bad, and and I think as a result of that, I have hurt present situations because of things that have happened in the past in middle school and high school. Because I feel you're number one, it's underneath all that anger and all of that inner chaos is fear. We're trying to protect ourselves from something happening. Is that anxiety of something's going to happen? And I don't think we see the anger as fear, but I think that's the root of the anger is fear and not wanting, and hurt.
It hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we build walls around everything,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the wrong direction. I think that people should go is you shouldn't build walls. You know, you should be focusing on healing. You know, and
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
trauma especially.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they build those walls, and then when something comes along, they're like, "Oh wait, I remember this now," and they
Yeah.
lash out. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, when it comes to Nick, what you said with,
Yeah.
with rejection, when people get rejected, I feel like they are emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah.
Their guard's down.
Mm.
Their pants are down. You know, like they're.
Yeah.
So that's when people get very defensive.
Yeah.
You know, to keep their cool. So I feel like it's like a turtle shell.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, and so when you try to do something, you get rejected, you're like out of your shell. There are so many
Yeah.
people. Hi.
So yeah, it makes you want to like retract into your own protective shell, but like what is the protective shell? I feel like it's understandable, but I feel like a lot of it is like based on fear. At least for me, a lot of like my shell was based on fear, and I guess like an example is like when I first met you, when I was like not willing to allow you to help me with things.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was a protective shell. I was like, I'm afraid of letting someone else in, and that was a protective shell. I didn't like feel. It's not that I didn't trust you. It was just like I had to deal with like my own past things, and I'm sure I've probably hurt you like in some cases where I was like distant sometimes or like not letting you in. I'm sure I've hurt you, but I think it's a way that we think it protects us, but it really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see that because we think it does. We feel
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we need this. I
Exactly.
need this
Yeah.
shell.
Yeah.
I need to not let you help me because, this will happen. I don't want you to help me. And I mean, it's a funny example. Now I look back on it, but
Yeah,
like,
it's funny.
but
Yeah.
because he came up to me. He's like, I was like, why is this guy trying to be my roommate? Like, what do I have to offer this person as like
Yeah.
I was like, what? But that was more of like a shell based on the past rejection that I experienced, and it's like kind of projecting rejection onto their present situation. Projecting rejection. It's like projecting rejection onto the present situation, and you didn't even give it a chance. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, if I didn't give you a chance, then I would have screwed up major.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, same here, man.
Yeah.
Like I think we're in the correct timeline.
Yeah.
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 And stuff like that happens, And I mean, of course, building trust
Yeah.
Yeah.
is a good part of that as well.
Also, I didn't like when I told you like last week about like when I told you guys, I was like before I was gonna tell you, it's like what are they gonna think about? What are they gonna think about me? Are they gonna see me as like, like mean? I don't want them to see me as a mean friend, but I had to just let go of that fear and that pride of how you want people to perceive you. I had to let go of that. It's like I have to humble myself and like
Yeah.
tell them the truth of what I did, because I'm able to be more human in that sense. So
Yeah, and I think people who don't want to like accept that, if they judge you, those probably are the people that also hurt people the most.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's, I think, their coping mechanism probably. Like you said,
Yeah.
they, kind of have walls up around something.
yeah,
And so there's nothing wrong with being open, And if people tell you that there is, I just think they're wrong.
That's wrong. Man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
or they haven't dealt with their own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that
That's
like
also true.
so they don't want to like when you tell them about your stuff, it's like wait a second, whoa, I don't.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say too, like pride. Like
this is a good episode.
we've been saying too about pride this entire time too. Pride is something else that could make you like feel like rude towards another person and
Yeah,
cause you to make a mistake as well.
yeah. Pride is
yeah.
something that like, might influence on how you go about connections and wanting to build walls. And I think pride is like not accepting your humanity because you think your humanity is like there's something wrong with your humanity. But I mean, our humanity is broken, but it's not wrong in a sense. It just is. and it's not shouldn't be seen as this is wrong, I'm wrong, because yeah, what you did was wrong, but you're not wrong. And I feel like when you tell yourself I'm wrong, I'm a terrible person or whatever, then that's when the walls come up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm visualizing it. I don't know why every time we're saying walls,
Same.
I'm saying like
Yeah.
earth bending.
So.
Yeah, everyone makes mistakes,
Yeah.
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 I think we forget that.
Yeah.
We do a
all too
lot.
often. All too often.
I think social media kind of makes that
No,
worse.
were you about to say that?
Yep.
Nick almost did a backflip.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because social media just people always don't want to show the best.
Yes.
part of
Yep.
themselves.
And Micah, we talked about this.
So
the
when
last
you
time I was
see
here.
like big celebrities,
I
Yeah.
don't remember.
big celebrities,
perfect
people with
standard.
Oh
yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
perfect
We
standard.
could be here
Exactly.
for a while, Mike.
That's another thing. Having like a perfect standard, it's like when you have that perfect expectation of yourself, and then when you make a mistake, it just makes it so much worse.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you have that expectation that you're just never going to fail, then and when you do fail, it like makes it much worse because you didn't live up to like that unrealistic expectation. So now you're beating yourself up for something that you actually can't live up to.
Mhm.
This is like a really deep episode.
Deep, man.
It's hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait,
Well, exactly when you see like those popular people online,
Yeah.
and see all like their money and all that stuff.
Mhm.
It's like, well, it kind of affects you in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to be like that,
You want to
or
be
you think, or
Yeah.
you think you're behind. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 it's constantly.
I was gonna say too, like, social media can cause you to feel like FOMO
FOMO, yes.
Mm.
or like the fear of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It could cause you to be envious of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like with that, like if you have like influencers that you look up to and you see their life and then you compare, like you're looking at your mistake and you compare their life to your mistake, you're not seeing them make a mistake.
Yeah.
So you're comparing yourself to something that isn't really like it's not happening. They're not telling you like what they did last week because I would imagine it's not what they post. So it's important to take that into consideration.
Yeah, and I kind of got on that like influencer wave for a little bit. I was like aspiring to kind of live that life, but then I realized, and a lot of people pointed out to me, that you really never know who they are behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it really is like a perfect life. No one's life is actually like that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think that's just important, especially when like everyone is on social media, everyone's seeing it. Be interesting to see how that's changed people's perspectives over time.
You gotta love the messy moments of life.
Yeah.
You can't like. I feel like when we don't acknowledge our own brokenness and the brokenness around us, then we're kind of blinded by things that like brokenness can be beautiful. Like beautiful things can happen because like with brokenness there comes a sense of redemption and a sense of healing. So it's not just brokenness is a bad thing. It's just brokenness. Like I feel like it depends on the way we see it. It depends on the way we see it.
Trying to be as quiet as I can.
So-
Another thing I was gonna say too, like with social media too, they only show the good parts.
Yeah.
You notice like they never show the bad parts.
No.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Hey guys.
But who says that our mistakes are? You good?
Yeah. Hey, is there a bathroom like right around
Yeah,
here?
right.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like it's
To the right. To the
to the right.
I'll down.
Yeah. But who says brokenness has to be like just a bad thing?
Yeah.
Who says
Yeah.
that mistake who says that you hurting me last week, who says that like has to be like a terrible thing? What if and this is my belief because I like as someone that, like as a Christian, what if God can use that you hurting me as a way to grow both of us or to grow yourself?
Character development.
Oh.
Character development.
There's a whole other
What if
story
that
we
could
get
be?
into with that.
What if that can be used to deepen the bond? But we don't see it that way because once you've hurt me, and once you've hurt me last scenario, once you've hurt me, I can see the humanity in you. I see the humanity in you because you're flawed, and I see that you've made a mistake. But also, you see the humanity in yourself, and once we see the humanity in each other, then that can lead to a stronger bond and a stronger stronger situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it can lead to a more healing situation. Because I feel like we don't we're so focused on having the perfect marriage, the perfect family, the perfect friendship, the perfect whatever. We're so focused on that we don't acknowledge that when we've hurt someone, can this lead to something that's beautiful? We don't see it that way. We see it as like this mess. It's just such a mess. I've created such a mess. I've hurt Alex so much I can never come back from this. I've hurt Nicholas so much I can never come back from this. But what if the hurt that I caused you guys, with that can be transformed into something new?
Mm.
I guess I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that.
It's not something that we think about, but
But I think it works.
yeah.
Yeah, because like the Lord or whatever you
Yeah.
believe in, like works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let bro in.
Yes.
Guess who's back?
Ben's back. It's just how long were you out there?
Huh? No, I was like a second or two.
Okay. But yeah, we were talking about what if the situation can be, what if the hurt you caused someone else, what if that can be transformed into something new and something beautiful, not only for yourself but for that person. And we don't see that when it comes to pain and when it comes to hurting other people, or when other people have hurt you. We don't see that initially because we're only seeing it through our lens of what I did to that person, which is usually a shame-based lens. But what if that can be used to transform the both of you?
Yeah.
Don't see it that way, but it's kind of different. But I don't know.
I was in a really long-term relationship just recently, and that was something that was so big, is that we both hurt each other.
Yeah.
But it was pretty core to us to always make sure that we use that to make it better.
Yeah.
And I think there's always an opportunity for a mistake to lead to growth.
Yeah.
Especially, and that applies to friendships as well.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we can see that as this is oh my gosh, this is the end. This, what I did was irreversible. What they did was irreversible, or I never forgive them, or whatever. Which you can land in that place, but once you allow that to bring you closer, or to allow that to become a more not picture perfect situation, but there can be beauty in the mess situation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's not I don't know. I feel I think another coin is that we're another side of the coin is that we're afraid of messing up so much that we don't allow those experiences to really transform us in a way. Something to think about. Something to think about. But are we at an hour?
We're an hour and 8 minutes.
We're at an
in.
hour, guys.
Hour and 8
Gosh.
minutes.
Time flies. We're having fun.
So it's up to you guys if you want to wrap up. I'm not gonna
I think
I think we're having a good discussion.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. But
that's up to you guys.
do we want anything else to?
it's up to.
I guess it depends on if we have anything else to say.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Or
do
do
we-
we want to do a part 2? It is
This could be a part 2
I
thing.
think
it
it
could
could
be a
Yeah.
part 2. Yeah. That's a lot of good.
Because there's a lot of different layers to this.
A lot of good, a lot of layers, and a lot of good tangents and things that we could
Yeah.
talk about, because it's hard to admit that you've hurt someone, and it's hard to get to that place. But I think it is kind of stages, because at first you go through the grief of what you've done and the regret and shame, and you're then you hopefully go to acceptance and self-forgiveness. How do you forgive yourself? And I think to forgive yourself is to let go emotionally of the situation. Let go of what you did, and don't hold it against yourself forever and ever. Because if you do that, then you're just gonna stay stuck in what happened last week.
Yeah. Forever, ever, ever. Okay.
So, and I think if it's someone that, if it's if it's like a friendship or a relationship that person is willing to see you through and willing to work on things, then there's definitely potential for it to grow and to become deeper. And I hope that if I ever hurt you or you hurt me, that we can work it.
Well, it's also
Work it
about
out.
communication as
Yeah,
well.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
well,
another
it's like
one.
That's one we
communication.
left out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like if we don't communicate after the fact, then there's not like much that we can do,
Mhm.
because it's like part of it is, but communication also requires like a sense of humility and vulnerability. Communicate
Mhm.
like, this is what I did, and we're at an hour.
We're an hour, 10
Oh my
minutes in.
gosh.
Well, I have one thing to say.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
Cook.
So if you hurt someone, they're probably gonna be in a heightened awareness for the next time they see you. I think you said that maybe in the beginning that things won't be the same after, and so you need to
Yeah.
come with humility, because they're gonna be ready. And if you're still bitter or if you still have anything if it's resonating in you, they're gonna know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have
All
any,
right.
I do have a
any
final.
last words? I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say too, like my coach said once, like as well, like he was at one of the football games, but you
Yeah.
guys didn't need to know that. So he said to
Well, that
me,
sounds
"You
different.
never know what can happen, I mean, like at all, because you never know. Like you really
Yeah.
never know what can happen. Like, yeah, let's put it that way.
That's good, bro.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah.
you never know what can happen when you choose to heal. You never know what possibilities there are.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems bleak right now because you're, like, in the middle of the tunnel. You're in the middle of the Squirrel Hill
You're in the middle of the roller coaster.
You're in the middle of the Fort Pitt tunnel. But it seems dark right now, but like you said, you need to
Yeah.
give things time. Wow. Thanks guys. This is awesome. This is really good. I didn't think it'd
Yeah.
be this good. But do you have anything else to say?
I think just overall people forget that we're all human.
Yeah.
And that we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And people do have different paths of healing through those mistakes.
Yeah.
But just going through it, communicating with someone, if you did hurt, communicating with them,
Yeah.
because that shows
That you're willing to.
volumes. That
Yeah.
that
You're willing
really
to change.
shows. I don't know why I forgot the word shows, but really shows that you care
Yeah.
and want to
work on things.
and make the friendship even better than it was before.
That makes me feel a lot better because like I communicate a lot like after the fact, and I guess I thought like the person wouldn't want to hear that, like hear from me after everything I did. But that makes me feel better that communication like it's beneficial after you've hurt someone. And my last thing is self-forgiveness is a thing. Forgive yourself.
Yep.
Because you have to forgive other people, but you also have to forgive yourself because you're also a person too. So if you don't forgive yourself, then it'll just lead to like a lot of it'll continue the cycle of pain and resentment. So yeah.
Professor
Yeah.
Jones.
All right.
Mhm.
Hey.
Anything else?
Anything else?
Sure, real quick?
We sure? We good?
Anything else to say real quick? No.
All right, then that's a wrap.
Then we're good.
That's a wrap.
Well, guys, that was another episode of Men's Couch. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Spotify. And we'll see you in the next one.